Hello, welcome to another edition of What the Papers Are Saying. My name is Vivian Kai Loco. What the Papers Are Saying basically brings you the big stories for the week. After going through the headlines with you, we'll look at how the stories were reported and the other angles around those stories. Do stay with us. We'll be right back. And you're welcome back to What the Papers Are Saying. My name is Vivian Kai Loco. So let me take you through the big stories for the week. A story that has developed since it started over the weekend has to do with comments made by the Minister for Agric, Brian Echampo. So I'll take you through that story in particular and the matters arising around that story. I'll start with Daily Guide and let you know how they reported that story. They said NDC condemns Brian Echampo's comments, but NPP says NDC's reactions lack substance. We'll go to the New Crusading Guide. They say NPP committed to free and fair elections will not, however, tolerate violence. Back to the Daily Graphic, they say don't create tension in the country, please counsel to party political actors. Let's move to the Informer. It says NPP, NDC, foul air, beat war drums ahead of elections 2024. The Republic Press, still on that matter, says Brian rattles NDC, party activists divided as busybody lawyers run to IGP. The Daybreak says Brian said nothing wrong, NPP defends Betifi MP. Let's come to the City Newsroom and let's see how they reported that story. NDC petitions CID to arrest Brian Echampo. And then NPP fully endorses and supports Brian Echampo's comments. That's Nana B speaking over there. And finally, on that matter, on the City Newsroom, it says National Peace Council to engage political parties over comments inciting violence. So that's the story to do with Brian Echampo, comments he made around the elections, the next general elections, and matters that have arose following those comments. Now, another story that made quite some inroads this week has to do with recruitment of Ghanaian nurses by the UK. Let's see how that story was reported by media outlets and the angles around those stories. Now, the first will go to Ghanaian Times. They say UK government stops recruitment of healthcare workers from Ghana and 53 other countries. We'll go to City Newsroom, says Ghana, 53 others on UK's red list for health workers recruitment. Still with City Newsroom, Ghana's inclusion on UK's recruitment red list changes nothing. The Ghana Medical Association speaking over there. Let's go to graphic.com, says recruitment. And let's finally my red list Ghana, Nigeria for health workers recruitment. So these two big stories are the ones we'll be discussing today. We'll look at all the angles and matters arising for those two stories. I have with me tonight to discuss those two stories, two gentlemen. I have Selim Adonu. He's here with us at City FM and City TV. Selim, welcome. The point. You see, he's running away from me talking about his suit. And she will come to that. Let me introduce Sky and I'll come to that. And then I have Richard Sky also here with us at City FM and City TV. Richard, welcome.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here, Vivian.
Good to have you.
Good.
Were we in court today?
Sure. The courts generally are on vacation, but
okay.
the lower courts are working. So
all right.
Yes.
Okay, so guys, thank you so much for joining me again and welcome. We'll start with comments made by Brian Achampo over the weekend on the campaign platform. I don't know what's with people standing on the platform. I haven't campaigned before. I have covered people campaigning, but sometimes there are very interesting comments that are made during campaigning. I don't know whether that was one of those, but there's been a lot of back and forth over those comments he made during that campaign period. Not campaign necessarily. We had the Kwewu Festival happening. The president was there, and of course the MPP met, and then he made those comments during an address to party supporters and all that. Now, following those comments, the NDC has reacted. They've called for his arrest and interrogation and all that, as we've seen with others from the NDC who saying we're done with them for making similar comments and all that. But the NPP released a statement and said they sided with their minister and the MP and felt that the comments he made were not out of place. But let me start with you, Selom. Are you part of the school of thought who think the comments he made were wrong, unwarranted, and he must, you know, be called to order for those comments he made?
Well, Vivian, thanks so much for being here. The country is permanently in election mode, and that is very not so good. Just after one election, we start the next, and there is no time for real, cool-headedness to confront or deal with the real challenges of the country. The reason why people were voted into power, there's no real time to do that. So by the time you realize you're in your third year and fourth year, election is upon you. So it's a similar situation that this government finds itself in. And so I'm not too surprised that things like this are happening, only that I'm disappointed that we are not learning. This year actually marks 30 years of our practice of democracy under the Fourth Republican Constitution. So it's quite disheartening that we've not, over the years, found the time in a cool-headed fashion deal with the issues in a very, encompassing manner. What you see is that anytime politicians, particularly members of this administration, get the opportunity to address a matter, they straight away go at it in a way that puts one against the other. And I don't think that is what we need at this time, especially as we are dealing with, an economic crisis. But the comment that Bani Champon, Minister for Agric, made, generally, you can say it's political talk. When they are on the political platform, a lot of things happen to them. I mean, the frenzy, they lose maybe their mind. They engage in maybe groupthink, where because there are a lot of people around cheering you on and people are saying things, you also want to say it.
Atmosphere is charged.
Yes, atmosphere is charged. You want to say it and sound the hardest.
Yeah.
These are characteristics of what we call groupthink, and it is not always a good thing to be engaged in the groupthink. There's a pressure to conform. You say things, you are to say things hard so that you'll be remembered, etc. So that is how I look at it. But when you are also considering whether the talk is political and so should be left at that, political talk simpliciter or not, I think you should look at it on a number of levels. First of all, you should look at the person making the comment. Who is the person making the comment? The person making the comment, does he have capability to implement or do what he is saying he wants to do on the platform? So, for example, if I'm talking on a political platform and I say I will shoot down an aeroplane, you look at the person making the comment. Does he have the capability to do that? Do I have the capability, as I am, to shoot down an aeroplane? If yes, then that you can take seriously. If no, then you treat it as political talk. For example, if Baumia is on the platform and he says, what were some of the promises he made? He said, like, he would do concrete roads, for example. Does he have the capability to do that? As vice president, yes, he has capability to influence government policy to do that. But when Nanado also tells you that when I come back, I will make university education free, does he have the capability to do that? Yes, he has the capability to do that as president. If John Mahama tells you that when I come back, I will build a hospital in your district, does he have the capability to do that? Yes, he has the capability to do that as president, you know. The second point, apart from capability, is the record. Does the person making the comment have the record in respect of what he's saying? So the Bawumia example, I'll build concrete roads. Does he have the record to back that? Not quite, but because it's a first timer, we can grant that. If Kwame Nkrumah, for example, is on the similar platform today, tells you that when I come back, I'll build concrete roads, he has the capability and he has a record to back it because he's built concrete roads, he's built the Temamoto, which is a concrete road. If John Mahama tells you that I'll build a hospital in your district, he has a capability. Does he have the record? He has a record to back it. If Nanado tells you that I will make university education free, he has a capability to do it. Does he have the record to back it? Yes, he has the record because he has made secondary education free. So based on that, you can treat the comments as comments seriously or not. The other point, I think, is about believability. You know, I don't want to call it credibility. Believability, the person making the comment. What is the believability quotient? Does he have what it takes to do it? I'm making this point because the person who made a comment on that platform has a certain history. Brani Champon was a minister of state also at the National Security Ministry in this country when Ayawaso West Wagon happened. And we all saw the Ayawaso West Wagon, you know, election. And I think we analyzed this on CTTV. And we saw the commission. IGP was there. A lot of all these guys were there. And for a lot of the key people in charge of our national security, they did not know how the deployment on that day was made. All of a sudden, we saw national security operatives wearing masks, you know, dressed in a certain way to a polling station. Never happened in this country. In the end, it came down to the point that it was Brani Champon who deployed those people. And it appeared he deployed them unilaterally because IGP wasn't aware. They were driving a police vehicle. IGP wasn't aware. National Security Minister wasn't sure what he was even telling the committee. So Brani Champon was the guy who deployed that team. You may call it an illegal team or whatever, and all the things they did on that day, which remains a blot on our democracy. He was the guy who did it. So the question is, does Brani Champon have the capability to implement the things he said? To a large extent, I think yes. Does he have the record to back it? Based on what we saw at Ayawaso West Wogan and a lot of things we understand he has expertise to do by virtue of his past as a military officer in the US or wherever, he has the record to back that. Will you believe him if he says that he will deploy a team or he will do such a thing? Yes, you will believe him because he has lived it and he has done it before. So on all fours, Brani Champon's comments should not be taken lightly. So I will not just treat it as a political comment. I'll treat it as a comment that we must take seriously because of the nature of the person.
Well, some say he was taken out of context.
He wasn't taken out of context. I will get there. So it is very concerning to me the way he spoke, and I don't take it lightly at all. It's unfortunate that, of course, we have a minority that disappointed Ghanaians by way of his first major out. Decided to announce himself. Very, very unfortunate. So now,
but remember, during his vetting, he said he did not.
He did not do what?
Deploy those people during the
we saw the commission's report.
And that he had been cleared in that report.
We saw the commission's report. And all fingers pointed at him that he appeared to be the one who deployed it. IGP wasn't aware. National Security Minister didn't appear to know where they were coming from. And so that was how it appeared, you know, and that was how it was really. When he was being vetted, there was a situation in the vetting that caught the attention of many. That interaction between himself and Ato Forcing, the A Ato, you know, are beginning to see. He said, based on what I can trust you. And that's when he said, hey, Ato, you don't trust me. Today, you don't trust me. And that was what caught the attention of everybody. And we did not follow up on what he said about that.
So let me just quote so that those who, based on the vetting period, this is a quote in any way to justify what happened in the last page report of that conclusion that I should be reprimanded. That is why the white paper rejected that recommendation.
Was worthy of some reprimand. Whether the white paper freed him or not, or cleared him or not, is a different matter, because there were a lot of issues in respect of that white paper, especially the white paper refused to recommend any punishment to that person. And the defense which was put forward, which was quite bizarre even in law, was that, and I wondered the defense for things like he was speaking. What did he say? He said that, they will not because that statement that for hand over power, they will not do that. It will not happen. That was such a categorical statement. And based on what he had said and how he concluded, that statement gave cause for worry. Because you cannot say without certainty, with certainty, that you will not hand over power and you do whatever it takes not to hand over power. You do not have that power. Yeah. In any case, the power you have is power given to you by the people of Ghana. And if the people are talking about something we do not know on anything that will make their case, they will latch on anything. So they latch on the IGP, etc. Okay. IDEC has issued a statement, and a few others have spoken.
Okay. So we'll come to what the various institutions that have issued statements. So hold on, I'll come back to you. Those statements we saw from Brian Achampo over the weekend at the Kwewu Festival Sky. Okay, will say, are you laughing at me or are you laughing with me?
I'm laughing. Let me say from the outset that, look, first of all, I'm an Ewe man from.
So it's what, Ewe? Not
Ewe. From Adafienu in the Curtis South constituency of the Volta region. And so I would issue a caveat and say that I'm limited in terms of spoken. So my analysis will be based on what I've heard people say.
You've not heard you didn't hear the full...
I heard it, okay. But because I'm not a native speaker... before I proceed to make my comments, I've heard what Salom, read, and, I have no reason to doubt that he has a passable understanding of the language, for which reason he gave that interpretation. But from everything that I've heard thus far, it would seem that it was clearly an irresponsible statement. Level of you know, emotional intelligence is expected of you. A certain level is expected. Level of restraint is expected of you when you are acting for and on behalf of the good people of Ghana, or you are performing or discharging your responsibilities wherever it may be. And then also when you are speaking publicly to the good people of this country. There have been attempts to put a spin, positive spin on the statement to suggest that earlier comment that had been made by former President John Dramani Mahama and some other PP equally dead. Attempted to whitewash a clearly irresponsible comment from a man who ought to know better. It's scandalizing. Political parties are not put together to go and whitewash everything irresponsible done by their members. When your member goes rogue and makes a statement which all well-meaning Ghanaians the conclusion that the state every potential to know it. The least you would expect from a political party which saying that, oh, he did nothing wrong. You call him to order. You reassure the good people of this country that you are not one of the parties and that you are democratic process, and where for some reason the good people of Ghana decide otherwise, that look, you are no longer fit for purpose in the administration of this country and that you should leave power, you would do so seamlessly without any ceremony as to create violence and compromise the integrity of our electoral process and democracy. That is what a response
from the NDC or MPP.
I can give you a tall history of the kind of thing I'm complaining about. Being prosecuted for making a similarly irresponsible statement, which had a the MPP was up in arms. In fact, we saw them trooping to the CID headquarters, showing support for when carried him shoulder high and poured powder. That's the level of irresponsibility that we have seen in political parties in our country. Quite recently, station guy. The name was Razak Avolia. He also made an equally irresponsible statement inciting violence against members of the New Patriotic Party ahead of the 2024 elections. So they trooped to the courts, they trooped to the relevant offices there, they were working in solidarity. saying that, look, of our there, that offensive conduct conducive to abusive or insulting words or behavior with the intent to provoke So when the law is so clear and a member of parliament, a minister of state, goes to stand on a political platform and makes an utterly irresponsible statement that could potentially undermine the peace of this country, the expectation, legitimate expectation of the good people, thus far,
we've not seen anything.
We've not seen action from the people.
Okay, I'll take a quick break. Still what the Salam, I don't know. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation around
Go to channel 363. On GoTV, access City TV on channel 182. On a digital TV, please press the menu button on the remote control and run a new search on your TV. Take note that without an antenna, you cannot access City TV on your television. City TV can be accessed on a free-to-air digital box like the GoTV.
So you're welcome back to what the comments made by the Honorable Brian Champon over the weekend to do with elections and we've had the NDC condemning that. We've had the Peace Council also saying they intend to invite all parties involved because during the political discourse, and they would have to step in. But Richard was making some, you know, interesting...
Yes, I was saying that if you look at our laws, such public utterances are frowned upon by the law. That you cannot say things that have the potential. People have in faraway United States of America, a former president of the Republic, regardless of how many people feel about, you know, attempts to prosecute him, efforts to prosecute him, Donald Trump, he's being prosecuted, or there are plans to prosecute him because he's already been arraigned. He's being prosecuted for breaking the law, allegedly. The case of the people of New York is that he broke the law. And so he's been put before court.
But you know, things work differently in the United States.
No, you see,
as compared to
you see, we have elected to go by the rule of law. Nobody is over and above the law, and nobody is, you know, below the law.
Yeah.
You understand? We are all equal before the law. The law is there. So that when a person breaches the law so flagrantly, and that person was expected to know better, that is when you crack the whip. So that a judge sitting in his glory will say that, look, you, the Honorable Brian Champon, ought to have known better, not to have said A, B, and C. And because you went ahead to say A, B, C, and D, and have reasons based on the evidence before me that you have done A, B, C, and D, I think I will use you as a great example.
But Kai, to the extent that, as we speak, like you said earlier, we've not seen the police, you know, at least invite him for questioning to clarify what he intended with that statement. One, we've never seen the prosecution and, you know, subsequently sanctioning of any politician who's made such comments. Nothing to deter anybody or politicians when they make such statements. We're just running in circles, really.
Oh, yeah. You see, that is, you see, because really, if you look at our laws, it is the Attorney General who initiates criminal prosecutions of the kind. Of course, the power is devolved somewhat to institutions like the police and some other agencies where appropriate to prosecute.
Yeah.
So, for instance, this particular matter, it is well within the authority of the police to prosecute. Of course, the Attorney General may decide that, look, for whatever reason, he's filing a nolle prosequi. He's no longer interested in prosecuting the matter and would direct accordingly the police to go and enter the necessary processes, or he will do the same, you know, on his own accord. In that case, at least we've seen evidence of an effort to prosecute, except that, you know, someone up the chain intervenes to say, don't do it, for whatever reason. Now, what we have not seen thus far is that he's not been invited for questioning, regardless of a petition that has been sent to the police. My understanding is that behind the scenes, the police hierarchy is basically engaging the minority side and the majority side. Because the NDC went there with a petition, the MPP also went there with a petition in to retaliate, so that if there will be an arrest from NDC side, there should equally be an arrest from the NPP side. I think, look, as for granted. They assume that we can are being prosecuted. People go taking banti, one tuber of cassava. They are putting them behind bars. Banti just to satisfy their hunger. But people are making serious comments that can cripple the democracy and the peace of this country, and yet we find nothing wrong with it. I think it is not a partisan issue.
Okay.
It was an irresponsible comment, and if the police are interested in policing our democracy and ensuring that it survives to deliver the goods we expect it to deliver, then matters like that need to be investigated, interrogated, and where appropriate, there should be prosecution.
Okay. I don't think anything will happen. Sorry to disappoint you. You can bet on that, but that's the reality.
That's the unfortunate
but how do we whip people in line to get the right things done? Because this has been happening for so long.
You whip people in line by cracking the whip. Okay, when somebody does something wrong, or when somebody does something worthy of a reward or worthy of something, you apply it immediately. So we call it motivation. If somebody does well, and you want to encourage a person, you motivate the person. And the motivation, we are told, must be prompt. Okay? Punishment is also a form of motivation to deter you from doing something. So if somebody commits a wrong like this, in my view, it's a wrong, and you want to ensure that nobody else toes that line, you apply the motivation or the sanction. And that is the only way others will be deterred. So I tell you, if nothing is done about this, and it's almost a week since that comment was made, nothing has happened. We've not heard that he's been invited. We've not heard that he's been questioned. We've not heard anything. Even if he was questioned in secret, it would not have been good enough, because justice must not only be done, it must be seen to be done. People must see that you are doing the justice. But nothing of that nature has happened. So tomorrow, NDC also organizes a walk, and somebody also mounts a platform and says something like that. And normally they want to outdo each other. So somebody will say something more incendiary than that. Would the police or would the powers that be have the moral right or courage or authority to call that person to order or want to prosecute that person? You see, we do not have to create the impression as if we have two different types of Ghana. When the small man does it, with alacrity, you call him and then you are prosecuting him. The big guy does it, you can't even touch him. You can't even call him to order. So the guy in the Ashanti region, Swami guy, the guy Sky referred to, he made a comment, also very bad. He was immediately called.
Yeah.
And as we speak, he is before the court. He is being prosecuted. He may be jailed. He may be fined. Anything could happen to him. That is how it must be. Once you cross the line, you must be dealt with. That is how functional societies work. We call it the rule of law. However, somebody else does it, and you've not even considered calling him. You embolden that person and people in his court to continue doing the same. When you do so, you encourage, a sense of inequality before the law. When people feel that they are being subjugated, they bottle up a lot of feelings within, and when things come to a head, the way they express those feelings are normally not palatable. We do not want to get. That is why it's important that justice is served. So in this case, we should all come together and say, no, this conduct is wrong. We expect the police and other institutions of state to act. National Peace Council, a body set up by law. I don't even know what they said in the statement. Of course, I know that sometimes when elderly people are talking, there's a way they talk. So they'll call everybody to order, they'll talk to people, etc. But it is just not enough. We are some 20 months away from elections. And the environment is like this. The economic crisis we find ourselves in, we are not even thinking about that. We are thinking about how to win the next election, how to break the next the eight, and how to get others in power, etc.
Yeah.
That is not how a country is governed. of Act 29. And it says that any person who in a public place, where he made a comment, was it a public place?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Or at any public meeting, that was a public meeting, uses threatening. Was the language threatening? That language was threatening. Abusive or insulting words or behavior. That behavior itself was problematic. With intent to provoke a breach of the peace. You can argue that he did not intend to provoke the peace. But the law goes ahead to say that or whereby a breach of the peace is likely to be occasioned shall be guilty of a misdemeanor. So he may not even intend to cause or to provoke a breach of the peace. But once it is likely that a breach of the peace may be occasioned, the law must call him. Yeah. The law must give him a phone call. But we are here. And it is so disappointing, at least to some of us, the younger generation, that our elders are disappointing us. The IGP and his men, the CID and their people have so far not delivered the goods to Ghanaians. And it's so disappointing. It's so disappointing, just to say the least.
Right. I think we'll move
on. At least they could have
even
called him to ask him to sign a bond to be of good behavior.
Nothing. And you see,
I mean,
there's so many that can,
It's disappointing.
Yeah.
Very, very disappointing. And let's see what...
We'll give another weekend.
Let's see what they will do to somebody else when that person... So, in fact, when they go to court prosecuting that guy from Swami,
yeah,
I want to know how they will feel prosecuting that person.
I don't think they will feel anything.
Whilst a bigger person with capability and record is sitting down, having made a similar or even worse statement. It's a tragedy, if you ask me.
Right. So we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll look at the recruitment of Ghanaian nurses by the UK, and the UK government putting a ban on that. When we come back, do stay with us. We'll be right back.
City TV is live on DSTV. Go to channel 363. On GoTV, access City TV on channel 182. On a digital TV, please press the menu button on the remote control and run a new search on your TV. Take note that without an antenna, you cannot access City TV on your television. City TV can be accessed on a free-to-air digital box like the GoTV and StarTimes box. City TV, it's your world.
Hey, welcome back to What the Papers Are Saying. My name is Vivian Kai. Look, I'm here with Richie Sky as well as Selim Adenu. Guys, let's move to the recruitment of Ghanaian nurses by the UK. We're told that the UK government has stopped that recruitment, not just Ghana, but some other 53 countries, including Nigeria. I was listening to you, was it yesterday?
Yes, it was yesterday.
Making some interesting and passionate statements around the need for us to have these workers here and deal with all our issues and all that. But then it comes back to take care of your home before your country in such matters, doesn't it?
Well, you see, I know this is a very, very controversial matter, and I took a principal position that, look, if all of us decide that we are no longer interested in the project called Ghana, we are taking our skill set elsewhere, what will be left of the Republic of Ghana? So I took a principal position that, is it a case that we have a deficit of about 50% when it comes to the number of nurses we actually need to keep us all fairly safe per the international standards? The deficit is on 50%, according to the records. So is it fair that we keep feeding the needs of a Western world when our own needs are not being attended to? I appreciate the point that, look, human beings are economic agents. They make rational decisions based on what satisfies them economically, what will fill their belly. But you see, there is also a certain obligation imposed on you as a citizen of the Republic to act in a way that furthers the interests of your country. Now, when Kwame Nkrumah left the shores of this country, he went to grow himself, had education. He could have decided that he was staying in the US or in the UK. These two countries were where he furthered his education and spent a good time reading and reforming himself and shaping himself into what he ultimately became. He came back, faced the colonialists, fought them together with other well-meaning Ghanaians, and got us independent. If he had decided to stay there, perhaps we would not have received independence on March 6, 1957. That's a Ghanaian coming back to hell. Some would say that, well, you know, if you use the Kwame Nkrumah example, then you should be prepared to say that nurses should equally leave the shores of this country to go and grow themselves elsewhere, come back and contribute their quota. But these are two different things. What is the principal reason why our nurses are being recruited?
For survival.
For survival, right?
Yes.
And also because the UK is in deficit.
In need of them, yeah.
They have not invested as much as they should in training nurses to support their own health system. So because they have a deficit, because there's a crisis, they have been actively recruiting our people. And you know what happens?
Citizens are not interested in becoming nurses
Not
anymore.
necessarily. What happens ultimately is that, look, they are a richer country. They give us aid. For a long time, they have been supporting us to deal with maternal mortality and related issues. Women going to have, children and dying as a result. In some cases, these things happen because a nurse is unavailable, or a doctor is unavailable, or a particular medication is not unavailable, or particular equipment needed to save a life was unavailable. So if a country that has been doing all of these things, supporting us to save our women, whose only crime is to go and get pregnant and to want to deliver, and for some reason they die. And some of the reasons are that we do not have enough nurses to attend to them, or midwives to attend to them. I think there's a moral issue there. You are giving us money to help us deal with this particular problem. But on the back end of it, you are taking away the human resource that we need.
But you train nurses every year. A lot of them you struggle to employ. One, you employ those that you employ. You don't pay them well. The conditions are not good enough. The environment are not good enough. If they are taking care of families that they need to take care of and better opportunities present themselves, why not?
You see, I sympathize or empathize, which is the right word, with the position that, look, things are difficult in this country. Nobody is finding it easy. I'm not finding it easy. Salom is not finding it easy.
So if you get the opportunity, maybe you will stay because you can afford to.
No, you see,
what about somebody who cannot?
You see, the point I'm making is that, look, people are free to act in a way that protects their economic interests.
Yeah.
But then in doing that, you should also be minded by the fact that, look, Ghana invested so much into you. Were we not in this country where nurses were being paid allowances so that they could study in school? Of course, it was not enough, but we, the people of Ghana, came together to contribute towards their education. So strictly speaking, their education is heavily subsidized. So it is totally unfair that the old woman in Bunkurugu Yunyo, who had to carry, firewood across so many kilometers in order to sell in the local market, make a CD or two, which CD something is taken out of, to contribute to your training as a nurse. You are saying that abandoning all of us. The old woman there who I just cited is not being paid well. The teachers are not getting paid well. Fair. The doctors, no. The journalists are being poorly paid. You and I sitting here, we know that we are not receiving the value. We are not being compensated enough for the value we bring to the job that we do. But we are in the country. I was trained in the UK, got called to the bar in the UK. I could have decided that, look, I'm staying in the UK to do something better for myself. But I have come back to the Republic of Ghana to contribute my quota. What I'm saying is that, yes, people will always leave the Republic because it is in their economic interest. But at some point, let us pause and reflect that, look, the state of Ghana has done so much for me. Although the state of Ghana sometimes is tiring being a Ghanaian. Yeah. But you say, there comes a point you say that, look, yes, let me try my best. If all of us are properly conscientized to think that, look, we can contribute our little quota in a very honest way as to help this republic grow, I believe we'll get there. But if we say they are not paying us well, so we'll do the work wishy-washy, we're pretending we are working, when in fact we are not working.
But we have to meet each other halfway. So the government must also step up
true.
and improve
I insist that the governments over the years have been abysmal.
Yes.
They have not tried for the nurses.
They should get their house in order.
Yes, that's true.
The nurses can stay.
I agree with you. But I'm saying
that don't blame the nurses for leaving.
Well,
when they have bills
say
to pay,
they are doing something
about it.
What are they
doing?
But what I'm saying is that while the government says they are doing something about it, it is immoral for countries like the UK, who give us money seeking to help us deal with our maternal mortality and related issues. While they are doing that, they are also actively behind the scenes recruiting and taking people who will help us achieve the results they hope. I think it is not right.
It's not right. Okay.
They are paying the people well, and we cannot compete with them in the international labor market. The labor market, it is completely unacceptable. Okay. I find it immoral.
Salom, should they stay or go and get the greener pastures? Sky says they should be patriotic and stay.
I understand Sky's concern, really, and of course, no country wants to train its human resource and allow the human resource to be taken by other people just like that. But it's really an economic issue, and you have to look at it like that. It is a big problem that you don't address by appealing. You don't address it by appealing to the people. You address it by deliberate policy.
Fixing things.
You address it by fixing the problem. I think the governments and this government have not done the hard work of understanding why the people are leaving, and they've not committed themselves to addressing the problem itself. Okay, I don't think Ghana itself has a lot of nurses. The data I have suggests that Ghana has exceeded the WHO nurses to patient ratio. Ghana, as of last year or 2 years ago, stood at 1 nurse to 839 patients, whilst the WHO requirement is 1 nurse to 1,000 patients. So, in fact, the health minister 2 years ago made the same point, that Ghana has exceeded the WHO, nurse to patient ratio.
That's the least minimum.
Yes, but it's a beginning point.
But there are a lot of nurses at home who don't have jobs because they can't be taken on.
So the point really is that there's a lot of despondency in the system. The nurses, we're going to picket, and they say the minister is going to give clearance.
Can you imagine?
Does it have to take people you say you need to now
that.
picket, demonstrate, fight before they are employed? Meanwhile, by the very nature of the agreement or arrangement you have with them, they cannot just go and work anywhere. They must work, or you must post them. They must work, discharge themselves before they can go into private practice. I think so. You've not done the first part, so they are locked. They cannot go elsewhere. They cannot even go to a private facility to practice because they are still under a kind of bond. All right. So it is a problem. You don't deal with that appealing to the people. It's an economic issue. People have completed school. Expectations are high. People suffer to go through school, and their parents think that once they finish school, they will get absorbed into the system, and then they will be free to deal with other matters. Now they are home. They are having to depend on their parents again. It's a problem. 2, 3, 4 years, they are home. And it gets embarrassing. So they have to picket before the state will post them in the name of lack of funds, financial clearance, etc. The point is, do we need them? If you need them, your actions must show. If you don't need them, your actions will also show. But from all indication, over the last few years, 10 years, 8 years, etc., it doesn't appear that we need the nurses we check out. And you see, the disappointing thing or the interesting thing really is that though we don't need them as in how they are being churned out, we keep incentivizing their training. How? You give them nursing training allowances. The teacher training and nursing training allowances were introduced for a certain purpose, to encourage people to go into those areas because the country at the time needed those professionals. Now we say we've exceeded the target or the minimum ratio that the WHO wants. But we keep incentivizing their training. Yet, when they come out, we fail to absorb them. And you don't also want them to go out. So what are you doing to them? You can't absorb them. You can't feed them. They should be home. It's an economic issue. And I think that we have to address it.
Yes.
The issue of brain drain did not start today. It's been there. President Kufuor tried to solve it in a certain way by incentivizing the professionals, health professionals especially. So for the doctors, I know he started something like, making them do. The minister doesn't go to read speeches, appeal to, no, you don't do that. If you do that, you are being unfair to the young people. For now, a lot of them are rushing out of the country, and there are some tricks to get them in. So they apply for visa, they do not get. They do this, they do not get, and they must get some kind of clearance from their ministry or GHS. Now, clearance which will take a day or a week. It takes forever. The clearance never comes. All in an attempt to slow down the migration. But it is not fair.
It's not fair.
What government is failing to do is that once we say we have thinking that created a problem, cannot be the same level of thinking that will solve it. We need to elevate the thinking. So look at countries like Cuba. Countries which have thought outside the box. There's nothing new under the sun. We just have to copy and adapt it. If we say we have a lot of nurses, why don't we enter into some arrangements with countries which need them so we benefit? So Ghana can be a training ground for a lot of nurses because maybe we have expertise in training them. So we churn them out as many as possible. And then we quote unquote sell them to people for a certain number of years so Ghana gets money.
Yeah. We don't have enough.
We can do same for teachers.
We don't have
you
enough.
have thousands of nurses
I don't actually
at home.
buy. I don't actually buy that, because if we say we don't have enough,
Cuba has been able to do it because they've been able to deal with the problem back home.
Yes,
but they were deliberate. They were deliberate. So it was a
deliberate
real
policy. It's not.
I agree with that. I agree with
that.
that. But I'm saying that
the other point is, if we say we don't have enough nurses, generally we are referring to the hard to reach areas. Those areas, people will not go there for reasons that I will not struggle. Because I also want to live a good life. Everybody wants to live a good life. You're not going to put me in a village where I'll be drinking from the stream. I also want my children to be at the city center where they can school in the best of schools so they can compete. The other point there, you see, it's not even just about raising their salaries. Their salaries are very bad. I understand the average nurse is paid around 2,200. In this day of 45% inflation and other things, everything is wiped out. And these government workers, a lot of them take loans. They take loans with their pay slip. So at the end of the day, they say they are paying 2,500.
But they get 500.
It's nothing.
And there's something they call, they don't have, there's a term they call it, it's not working.
I
need to elevate
guys,
the things.
I agree with
30 seconds each.
The need for us to do something about it.
But we are just appealing.
To ensure that, look, we keep them. But you see, let's also not forget that Article 41 of our Constitution imposes obligations, duties, responsibilities on citizens. One of them reads, 41H says that what? To defend Ghana and render national service where necessary. Another one says, to contribute to the well-being of the community where the citizen lives. I mean, how much else would you do to contribute to the well-being of your community by... I just...
So you contribute and then struggle, not be able to take care of you, not be able to feed your family.
When
to what end? To what end? You know that when nurses...
We have to wrap up. And even the hospital they work, they have to pay.
They pay.
So you and I should advocate. You and I should advocate
that. You want to say the minister is not aware of this?
Why would advocate for that? We should also insist that they should stay with us.
Meanwhile, when the big people get sick, they are flown out of the country. They see all of that.
And then they don't even pay.
And they also want the good life.
That is also not right.
Yes, they also want the good life.
You cannot do that in other democracies.
Are we saying
where you are flown out?
Are we saying the authorities don't know this? And we have to advocate.
See, that is when we have to intervene. We citizens have to intervene.
All right.
Enough is enough. If you are sick,
what is stronger than they picketing? What is stronger than they demonstrating for financial clearance for them to be paid? And even that, when they employ them, it takes 6 months to a year before their first salary drops.
All right, guys, we have to.
I agree with you.
We all know who is supposed to sit up, and it's definitely not the nurses who have to sit up. It's government who has to sit up. Yes. So thank you very much, Sky. Your assertions are well taken. Same for you, Salom. My name is Vivian Kai Loko. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you again next week. Goodbye.